Hey guys, my name's Troy Hoffman. I'm the founder of Simpleris and the founder of Balancegenics and an executive mentor. What we do every week here is we're creating these things called Fireside Chats. We basically transform this entire space into a studio every week. 4, 3. In the house today we've got Walt Tabolina. Today in the studio we have Ty Cannon. He's also one of the top anti-aging doctors in the country and probably even in the world. And what I want you to see is the opportunity to be exposed to all these different entrepreneurs, all these different people that can share their wisdom and insights, because one idea can change your life today.
They want to be part of the outcome, but they don't necessarily want to be part of the process because it's scary. And if they hear you say collision and they're afraid of conflict, I got to go to the restroom. I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. Yes, they've done that.
I realized there's over 27 different hormones and hormone metabolites that exert a tremendous effect on your body, your mind, your performance, and whether you live or die.
You can actually like apply something to that.
Oh, absolutely.
This is what I think and this is what's right, and nothing will change for them because they're not open to change. I'm always open to learning something new and understanding something different.
Right after they get done with dinner, what do they serve? The butter cake at Masters. You're like, oh my God. And then I can just feel my whole body blow up. I'm congested.
That's the other thing, is like when
you got to live with reality.
When you're trying to be rigid and do the same thing every day, always perfect, that is really messed up, because how you do anything is how you do everything.
One new concept, one new thing you can take back to your workplace, one new thing you can take back to your company, one other thing you can take back to your family to change the way you think and see and change everything about what you're doing and the actions you're going to take. All right, folks, welcome back to the Fireside Chats. Today in the house, we have the ultimate Glen Depke.
That is right.
Glen is one of the top nutritionists in the country, and I'd almost say in the world. He's got to be in the top 1,000 geniuses, probably in the nutritional world, probably at least nationwide, if not worldwide. Glen has ran a guy's name by the Dr. Mercola's clinic up in Chicago for many, many years. And if you know Mercola, if you go to Mercola.com, it's one of the largest health, all natural websites out there. So if you have different issues in your life and you want to Google something, go to Mercola.com and look for that issue. You'll see some amazing articles. Glen is a walking human of the internet, of intelligence, of nutrition. And he really is. He's worked with a lot of people, and he's done this. A lot of people go to nutritional school, or they do something and they only have a few patients. Glen runs hundreds and hundreds of patients a week through decades of his life now. He's gone through his own pain, his own challenges. He was an entrepreneur when he was younger, running pizza businesses, and then had a lot of physical issues himself, and went through this really, really long journey of getting himself healthy. And maybe you can give us a quick, like 2-3 minute version of that. And then we can also talk about this. Catch this, don't miss this. Glen Depke is one of the experts really on ketosis, which is one of the hottest diets right now. People from all over the country are all jumping on this. Everyone's doing this. Everyone's buying the food. Everyone's trying to apply this to their life. But what's the truth behind the truth? Like, what is the reality of ketosis? How does it really work? And you have a lot of people that are like these young 20-year-olds that just learned a few things from a couple articles they read, and they're preaching and they're selling you courses online and all this crap. But the truth of the matter, you need someone at a genius level, someone that has years and decades of nutritional work, working with tens of thousands of people to understand really how the human body works and all the different options available to the body, because what works for one may not work for another. So Glen, thank you for being a part of our audience today.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure to be here.
You're awesome, man. Glen, you've worked with me over the years and still do, and Glen works with a ton of our staff members at the company, constantly deal with their issues. So Glen, I don't even know where to start. Should we start with your story first a little bit, like the quick version?
I think because that helps people kind of appreciate what's going on.
Yeah.
You see, and I'll give the shortened version. So.
Okay. And this is your camera over here, by the way.
So when I was 17 years old, I had my first grand mal seizure. So for people who don't know what that is, you pass out, you fall to the ground, you flip around like a fish out of water, and because of the reaction it has on your soft tissue, when you wake up, you just feel like you got run over by a truck. And I had every test known to conventional medicine. Nothing was wrong. There was no medical reason why I had a seizure. So the doctor basically said, well, it's probably just a one-time event. You know, we don't know what caused it. It'll probably never happen again. Months later, I have a second seizure. All right, so now I go into the hospital, do the whole same battery of tests. Once again, there's no reason why you had the seizure. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
But now I've had two seizures, right? So now they have to put a name to it. They have to put a tag, and I have to have a diagnosis. So now I'm told I'm an epileptic, and since I'm an epileptic and I have seizures, I need to be on anti-convulsant medications, right?
Yeah.
Well, I still had seizures on the anticonvulsants.
And you were taking a lot of this medication.
Yeah, three
too.
times daily.
Yeah.
And so the interesting, like the turning point in my life, I started to research these anticonvulsants. And what I found out is that the very thing I'm taking for a neurological disorder actually creates neurological disorders.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the
I remember
F,
this
you know,
story.
right?
So crazy.
So
the pharmaceutical world's crazy. Keep going.
It can be. So basically from there I recognized that now I need to take control of this. So this is where I make the long story short. I did what I needed to do to figure out what was causing the imbalance. I addressed every level of my health that needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
I got off the medications. I don't have seizures anymore. I'm not worried about having a seizure again the rest of my life because I took care of what caused it, which then drives my passion to help people do the same thing because everybody deserves the opportunity to get to the core of what's really causing their issue as well.
Glenn, that's amazing. And so I've heard this story hundreds of times, but catch this, so Glenn goes through this deep dive at a very young age. He's in his early 20s, learns how to solve a lot of this for himself, gets him off the medication, still becoming an entrepreneur, thinks he knows health, and then something else happened that you even went even deeper into health, and that got you working for Mercola. What happened then?
Well, actually after, the whole aspect of working with Dr. Mercola, because of his notoriety, I mean, he's the who's who in natural health. And the biggest blessing there is the 4 years I spent working alongside Dr. Mercola. Because of his notoriety, I saw more people in 4 years than most people see in an entire career.
Correct.
And since what we do is called the practice, the more practice you have, which is working with people, the deeper the understandings and basically the comprehensiveness at which you understand people's issues, right?
Yeah.
So that was the biggest gift is to really have that practice and recognition of what's really going on with people, which I'm in a constant state of what would we call this? Just a constant state of learning and growing myself in my
100%.
practice, because every person that I see, the next person I see is another opportunity for me to learn and grow and think of something different, rather than like so many people in the health field, they get really narrow-minded where it's just, this is what I think and this is what's right, and nothing will change for them because they're not open to change. I'm always open to learning something new and understanding something different, so my thoughts can actually mirror what that is. And to me, that's the evolution of health, basically.
So I love Glenn. Catch this, guys. For those watching today, so I was blessed enough to grow up with a dad who literally was sick as a child, spent as soon as he was around 16, 17, 18, started to understand health and nutrition and his impact. He was so sick, the doctors, his immune system was shot. He became a chiropractor, a neurologist, an internal medicinist, and a clinical nutritionist. So by the time he was 30, he was kind of operating his own practice, had already been through all these nutritional doctors, all these medical doctors on allergies. His parents spent all the money they made, and mom, as she became richer, spent more money on trying to solve their health issues. So he kind of grew up around this, like the medical world and how it wasn't functioning well. Then went to the all natural world and how it functions extremely well. Then he spent literally over 35 years of his life just doing so much health and nutrition. He literally a 6-7 day a week practice. He was at seminars every weekend for me growing up, and even the last year he was alive, he was still at a chiropractic convention trying to keep hoping that his health would get better and turning it around, and he was sick his entire life. But like really bad, but in health and nutrition, when they told him, I think Zach and I were 12 and 8 years old, when they told the medical community told my dad he had 1 year to live. He ended up living, and I think he just passed away like about 2 years ago. And he was able to keep himself another 30 years alive by doing this stuff. But the thing that I learned from him is this. He's like, there's just no one nutrition program. he would talk about how, like this one book, Eat Right for Your Blood Type. Well, yeah, it kind of works for some people. And then there's other diets that are like these all vegan diets, and they may work for some people. Then we had a girl that was married to the husband of the guy running the rehab center for my father at the time, and she lived best off meat and potatoes. And she's this tiny little rail of a girl that when we put her on an all vegan diet, no matter what we changed, what my dad tried doing, she just got sicker, that she had to live off a higher fat diet. And so not one thing fits all. That's why you need an expert like a Glen Depke, or find a nutritionist area that has years of experience and true knowledge that really is trying to model things, not just shove a stamp on you and say, this is that, you only fit in this parameter. So Glenn, what about now? Like, keep going with that if you
Yeah, so that's what you said there is huge. And it's something that whether I'm on social media or writing articles or doing videos, you know, the one thing that I will consistently say, and I say this to clients come in my office, I say, if you're ever going to work with somebody nutritionally and they tell you they have the one meal plan that works for everybody, you know what I tell them? I say, run as fast as you can, because
100%,
there is no one-size-fits-all meal plan.
It's a BS thing.
We're all biochemically different. We all have different genetic backgrounds. We live in different environments, weather-wise. We have different stress levels. We have different functional health issues. So nobody should eat the same thing. It's really just a bunch of line of crap, to be honest with you. And even from, like you mentioned earlier, ketosis. And this is a whole nother area with this, because in the keto world, and you said it perfectly, you'll have the person who read a couple articles, they're on ketosis, they've lost 50 pounds in 3 months, and they're screaming from the mountaintop how great this is, but it might not be right for you, right?
Or it may not be all as healthy as they think either if they didn't do it the right way.
Exactly, and that's where the individuality comes in. And there's so many, and literally there's so many troubleshooting points, because I can't tell you how many people have come into my office and said, well, I tried ketosis, ketosis doesn't work because when I was fasting in between meals, I would crash or burn, or I didn't lose any weight, but I did it perfectly. But there's all these different scenarios that are going on. But it's not that ketosis doesn't work, it's when you're not doing it right for you, or you've got troubleshooting points. So you've got those speed bumps that you're just hitting, and you just can't recover from that.
So what are some of the, out of curiosity, so let's roll back real quick. Explain what, I'd love to, for Glenn, get his version of what is ketosis, how does it work, and just let's start with the basics real quick, like the quick 30-second version, what ketosis is and what is the real program essentially supposed to be.
Okay. So
and then we'll go dive deep right after that.
The very basics of it, and when you talk about ketosis or the ketogenic diet, that's just a new name for what we've been doing for years. And it's basically you're training the body to burn fat for fuel rather than carbohydrates.
I love the way Glenn said that. He's like, it's just a new name for what we've been doing for years. Because a lot of these fads, like people start putting new names on different things for just things that just work. So keep going.
Yeah, and it's basically what you're doing is, what most people don't understand is, let me preface this. Remember back in the late 70s and early 80s when we were all told to carb load?
Yes.
So like if you, like I was in high school in those days, and if you played a sport, your coach told you to eat pasta and bread and bagels right before your event. And the thought was that, well, carbs is what we convert into energy.
Correct.
And it's true that we do, except number one, it's a poor energy. We actually get about 6 times more energy burning fat than we do carbs. And who doesn't want more energy nowadays, right? Correct. And also, it's a dirtier energy. And so which means that your body creates more free radical activity and oxidative stress breaking down carbs than it does fat for energy. So it's really a great system to allow your body to enjoy more energy and a cleaner energy when done properly. That's the key.
So, okay, now we're in ketosis. So ketosis, let me explain it in my version now. So we're burning more fat.
Correct.
So you want to put more fat in your body? Is that what ketosis is?
2 ways. If you're overweight, which is most people who go on the ketogenic diet, they go on it because they want to lose weight. So what you're doing initially is you're trying to tap into your stored glycogen. So you're tapping into the fat stores in your body to convert that fat into carbs. So that's what you're initially doing by limiting your carbs increasing your
limiting
fat.
carbs.
You're limiting carbs.
Increasing fat. What about proteins?
And protein, like this is another important part. Low to moderate protein, because what most people don't know is that when you actually overconsume protein, the protein your body doesn't need gets converted into carbs. So that's where, like, Atkins years ago was really onto something, but he didn't have all of the information because the research has just gone deeper since those days. And if you eat this unlimited amount of protein, it just gets converted into carbs.
So why fats now? Like, I mean, so why would our bodies now, okay, I guess this is my question specifically, right? So we're in the year 2018.
Right.
Now we go back 800 years ago, and like where normal diets, or even 2,000 years ago, or 3,000, were people eating a lot of fats? So like if they were living in a tropical environment, you know, like it goes to the theory my dad would talk about would be, you know, we're made up of where we grew up. So if you grew up in the northern area of like Wisconsin and you're like living off bears and like 9 months of the year, or even north, even in Alaska area, you're living off polar bears, and you're living off seals, and you're eating all these high fat diets like the Eskimos did, right? They ate a lot of high fats. But if you're living in the islands, you're living in parts of Africa where it's more tropical, you're living in the Mediterranean, maybe there were more fats with olive oils or olives, or I'm just curious, like what were they eating with more fat and less meat and less carbs back then? I mean, how did the natural world evolve into this is my question. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. And you know what? We didn't talk about this beforehand, but you couldn't have said the more perfect thing in the world. Yeah, is because basically that's exactly true. If we take the extremes, you take a traditional Eskimo who ate huge quantities of fat.
80% fat is normally their diet statistically.
And then protein and almost no carb, basically, right?
Correct.
And then you take somebody who grew up near the equator, let's say Venezuela,
Venezuela.
who eats a lot of tropical fruit.
Or Ecuador, or Peru.
Yeah, any of those
all the
areas.
potatoes.
Right. So they're eating lower fat proteins, right? And they're eating a little bit lower fat, and they're eating more carbs. So if you take both of those people and put them on the generalized basic idea of keto, one may be extremely successful, and one it could be a disaster.
The Eskimo, right, would be successful. The person who grew up on the equator would not be successful, right?
Exactly. And that's why it has to be taken individually. Like when you think of the general rules of keto, where they're telling you eat about 80% of your calories a day from fat, that doesn't work for everybody, because some people aren't genetically put together that way.
And isn't that going to cause problems with their blood vessels and, like, you know what I mean?
Well, fat
So I'm
not
curious.
Necessarily, because this is the big thing.
Like the vegans say, if you're putting too much fats in your system, you're going to cause all these problems.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because a biochemical fact in the body is that your body uses the fat that it needs, and it takes the rest of the fat and it's released. So your excess fat is released in your breath or in your urine. Right now, the thing though is that if you're eating, you know, I think of the standard American diet, the SAD diet, right?
Yeah.
Who people are eating these high amounts of sugar and processed carbohydrates, which is raising glucose and raising insulin. If you eat high fat and have extra fat and your insulin is high, now the extra fat, instead of being released in your breath and your urine, is driving up triglycerides and being put on your gut and your hips and your thighs. So the big challenge is that we're...
So why is that again? Explain.
Yeah, because we're eating too much sugar, too much processed carbohydrates. It's raising glucose.
Sugar, carbs, with the high fats, no bueno.
That's
bad.
That's bad.
That's just bad. Okay,
that's about as bad as it gets.
So that's like going to McDonald's, getting a large Coke with a great double cheeseburger and a large fries.
Extra cheese and a fry.
Yeah,
right?
now you're really screwed.
And it's a health disaster to do that. Yeah, but that's one of the areas where keto has it right, because they're having you keep your carbs low, so your glucose levels are low, your insulin is low.
You're not eating sugar.
You're not eating sugar.
Like if people just went off sugar alone, I think they'd get almost the same results.
Oh, you know what?
I almost guarantee it.
If people would get off of a good generalized thing to do, get off of sugar and get off of processed flour products. They're really all crap for our body.
They'd get almost the same results, I think, at some of the levels.
To an extent.
To an extent. Like,
it would just be a great improvement.
It'd be
right?
huge improvement for a lot of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's that individuality that is missing. Yeah, and that's where I think on a level where if the ketogenic diet ever goes away and is looked at as a failure, it's because people stop honoring individuality.
Yeah.
You know, and also like another big problem I think with keto nowadays, you know, like if you're on social media, every recipe you see out there just is about bacon and cream cheese.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not like you'll love this, Troy. So I'm driving in my wife's car. You know Dawn very well.
Yes.
And I turn on her car and she's got a radio station on, and the station it's an LA station, very well known station. I won't mention where. And I was going to turn it off and listen to some educational thing, right?
Yeah.
But they start out by saying, well, we're going to interview the leading medical expert on ketosis coming up next. So I'm like, yeah,
yes.
I gotta listen to this.
Okay.
So this is what cracks me up. So you get this guy is the expert, right? So
Yeah.
now you've got potentially 1 million people listening that might be ignorant of what ketosis really is, right? And
I study a lot, and I didn't really even understand it all that great.
Right. So this doctor comes on and he says, well, the ketogenic diet, basically you eat a pound of bacon, all this fat, you like eat 80% of your daily food is fat.
Was it Dr. Joe Ingram?
No, it wasn't, and I won't say who. And he says,
Not that Joe Ingram's a doctor, but that would be Joe Ingram's response.
So he says, you eat a pound of bacon, you eat all this fat, and 4 pieces of bread. Well, that's nothing to do with ketosis. That's not what ketosis is. No. And it's not 80% of your food is fat, it's 80% of your calories are fat. And since fat is most caloric dense food, it's not eating that much fat. Yeah, so you're not eating bread, because anybody who knows anything about ketosis knows that it's all about net carbs, and bread are too high of net carbs. Like, you just wouldn't do that.
So this is why you now develop Depketosis, and that's kind of a name. It's Glen Depke Ketosis, and put the name together. And Glen is teaching in classes on this. He's consulting on this. He's teaching courses on this. He's actually spending a lot of time with a lot of people out there, teaching them what is the true way overall as a global sense, and then diving into deep coaching, like one-on-one, and saying, okay, let's figure out like where your food allergies are. Let's figure out your food intolerances, and let's start from there. Let's figure out what you're allergic to, what you're intolerant to. Let's get you and figure out, okay, do you have other issues? Have you done a gut microbial check? And he's got stages of checking things, right? And the adrenal system. Because so you're getting rid of these things that are reactionary. Then you're dealing with healing the adrenals, healing the gut, and then we're putting people on the right diet at the right time for them. And that's what Glen is elite at, folks. And then I refer so many high-level entrepreneurs to Glen. I employ my best employees, the people I love the most. So I was trying to get my mom and my brother to you, and like they just haven't called yet. And I keep trying to push and like get my sister-in-law, my nieces, but it's hard to get them to do it, you know. But a lot of our employees go here because Glen is elite. So keep going.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up like the sensitivities. As an example, if we think of most people who are doing keto, they right away they're eating all this butter and cream cheese and cheeses, which in itself is not a bad thing to do. But there's a lot of people who have sensitivities to dairy, and they're wondering why. Yeah, they're wondering why I'm on the ketogenic diet. I should be losing weight, but I'm actually gaining weight because they're getting inflamed because they're eating something they're sensitive to.
They get this inflammation weight, and
right.
I mean, I cheat all the time. I can tell you when I cheat. Like when I'm traveling and I'm at like events, and there's literally no other food. I'm just like, dude, I'm just hungry, and I'm just like grabbing and eating whatever plate they put in front of me. It's got butter and it's got all this crap, and then it's like, oh, then we had a men's dinner last night for the men's group I'm part of, and I go in at light. I haven't ate really much all day, and we go to the Mastro's. They put a giant steak. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then what do they add to it? The lobster mashed potatoes. And these things are like crack. These lobster mashed potatoes at Mastro's, and it's just pure butter. So I'm eating these. Right after they get done with dinner, what do they serve? The butter cake at Mastro's. You're like, oh my God, you can't even fight it. It just calls your name to eat this. And I'm like, and then immediately I can just feel my whole body blow up. Right. And I'm congested again. And I'll be congested for the next 7 days because I cheated, and maybe even 14 days sometimes.
Right.
And one incident with me with the food allergies, the intolerance, my stomach's not working, things are not functioning, and all of a sudden I'm like, I get foggy, I get tired, I'm congested. You can hear it today, I'm just congested. I'm inflamed because I have a food intolerance, and and an allergy to gluten, dairy, and eggs. So keep going, Glenn.
Yeah, and what you said is, you brought up something important too, is because once you get your body trained into burning fat, which is big, that's what the ketogenic diet is really all about, training your body to burn fat rather than carbs. And once you get your body trained that way, and then you cheat, as you would say, once your body's trained that way, you can quickly get back into that process. See, but the problem is when we haven't trained our body to really drop into that very quickly, the response is much slower, and then we have to have a better and more strict focus on our diet. But once I'm a human being. Like I don't even teach anybody to do it perfect all the time, because that's messed up in my mind, right?
So true story, no lie. So Glenn and I don't even know where we're at. We're at some retreat. We're at a mastermind. We're in Puerto Vallarta, mastermind retreat, and Glenn's like, I've got these things called Luvos that helps me drink more alcohol and then get away with it the next day, and it soaks the alcohol up. And so I was like, Glenn, so there's a way of cheating and be able to drink? And Glenn's like, yes, there's a way of taking the right supplementation so you can actually drink more alcohol, survive, and be perfectly healthy the next day. And like, these are the coaching sessions I get from Glenn. There's also ways of eating off pizza when you're gluten intolerant, and there's a way of taking the right supplements and digestive enzymes so your body does not react to the pizza if you cheat only once or twice a year. These are the coaching sessions I get from Glenn, so I love it. Keep going.
And it's because, you know what?
It's reality.
We
you
have
got
to
to
make
live with
this
reality.
real.
We got to live in the real world.
That's the other thing, is like when you're working with a nutritionist and they're like, you have to do this like the Nazi nutritionist. That doesn't work, but because when you're trying to be rigid and do the same thing every day, always perfect, that is really messed up, because you've probably even said this before. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're rigid and stressed out about what you're doing, eventually that's going to encompass the whole of your life.
Correct.
And it's going to make you really messed up in here, right? So I always, when I recommend people to do depketosis, I say, well, do this 90% of the time. So what that means, if we think about it, most people eat 3 meals a day, 7 days per week. That's 21 meals. So that means that 90% of the time would be 19 of your 21 meals of the week. Do it the way you should do it to make your body healthy.
As clean as you possibly can, as much as you possibly can.
Exactly. And then the other 2 meals, if you want to have a hot fudge sundae and a martini, have at it. Do it.
Because like some people get so strict that they're strict and they do amazing for a year or two. They create these amazing bodies, and all of a sudden they've been so focused that when they snap, they go really the other way.
Right.
And like they really lose it, and they really lose shape, and they don't want to work out anymore. Then they don't want to eat healthy, and they just like screw it all.
Exactly.
And they go to these extremes. So it's like, how do you survive this balance consistently? So real quick, let's wrap up with depketosis. What are these roadblocks or these bumps we hit in the road that help us? Like, if we're going to start creating a parameter, right? So if you're out there today and you're watching, so like, here are the rules Glenn has. So one is like, there's a certain amount of fat, 80% fat. You're talking 60%.
Depends on the individual.
What are we talking?
It could be anywhere from 70 to 85%, depending on your depketosis type.
So 75 to 80% just fat. So that could be the fish oil pills.
It could be, but that's part of it. That's a part of it. And healthy fats.
And like, so is there like, you have like an ebook or anything, or do you have anything to give away right now or something? Like a guide or something, I can go online and find you and print out or something?
There is an ebook called Getting to Know Keto. And then along with that book, the ebook that you would get for free, there's also the complimentary depketosis assessment to help you define which end of the spectrum are you with ketosis.
Got it.
Because it can't all be the same. We can't all be eating 85%.
Where do we find this? So people watching today can actually, while they're on their phones, can go on their laptops.
Yeah, people can go to depkewellness.com.
So it's depkewellness.com. That's DEPKE wellness, WELLNESS.com.
Right.
And on there, you're going to also find little blogs that Glenn has. There's also stuff for adrenal support on there that's amazing. I would love to even dive deeper, but we can't. I don't think we should eat up all the time on adrenals. But like focusing on ketosis. So now you take the test. We're going for 75 to 80%. Now the other 20% we have are proteins and carbs.
Well, 25%? No. Here's what's this is again where for a lot of people,
caloric intake.
Yeah. Just the fat is the caloric intake. So it's anywhere from 70 to 85% calories from fat, depending on your Depke ketosis type. Your grams of protein would be different depending on your type, anywhere from 0.75 per kilogram to 1.5. And then the amount of net carbs, which is what we're trying to keep low, could be anywhere from basically 20 to 40. So it's depending on how you're assessed, based on your own assessment, will determine what you should be eating, and not just the percentages. Which foods should you be eating? So like not everybody should be eating red meat and like heavier, fattier proteins, but not everybody should be a plant-based vegan either.
Yeah.
So this helps define where you need to be specifically for yourself, and that's the key. And you had brought up, just before that, you brought up like, what are these stumbling blocks? And then you mentioned adrenals, right?
Adrenals, sugar. We already talked about sugar.
Yeah.
So how do the adrenals affect?
So the adrenals, when people follow the general guidelines of ketosis, they're usually doing also an intermittent fasting. So they're eating dinner early and they're not eating breakfast for like 13 to 18 hours after dinner. And a lot of people, when they're fasting, they just crash and burn. They have no energy mentally and emotionally. They can't think or comprehend, or they lose control of their moods, right? And it's because, and it's all tied into adrenals, because there's a stress hormone called cortisol. That's not just a stress hormone. It also plays an important role in just your body from a holistic perspective. And for you to go from, in a fasting state, from one meal to the next, and to be able to tap into that stored glycogen to really get the energy you need the production of cortisol to make that conversion. But see, for a lot of people in our culture, and we've talked about this before, most people are dealing with a level of basically insufficiency in their stress hormone system, so they can't produce the cortisol to tap into the stored glycogen, to tap into that stored fat to survive from meal to meal. And then they crash and burn and are wondering why.
So, ready?
Yeah.
My version of
bring
this.
it.
If your adrenals are shot, right, you're not going to be able to survive the intermittent fasting, basically.
Right.
You're not going to be able to kick out the cortisol out of the adrenals, which kind of, they're like, your adrenals help kind of give you that fight or flight response, that raw, right?
Right.
Okay, that energy. And that's why adrenal support supplements are so key. And then basically, if you don't produce the cortisol, you're not going to be able to clean out the bad body fats, basically, and be able to dump it.
Right.
And you're going to crash mentally, you're going to crash physically, you're going to crash emotionally. So do people need to get their adrenal system functioning first before they do the ketosis diet?
Well, you do one of two ways. You could use it parallel, but you have to recognize if there is an adrenal issue, you really can't do the intermittent fasting at the same level. You're going to have to have some snacks in between. Usually, like maybe a few olives or half an avocado, something to be able to sustain your energy in between meals, and you could do them simultaneously. If somebody's on the ketogenic diet and you're crashing and burning, just add some snacks, right? Yeah. But snacks that are really healthy snacks, and usually the best snacks on the keto diet are usually just small fat snacks, like 4 or 5 olives, half avocado, maybe some non-sweetened coconut, like some coconut meat, something like that.
Like you literally just cut half coconut and just eat the coconut.
Exactly. And it's because there's these troubleshooting points, and here's another one that you'll love. Did you ever hear somebody mention keto flu?
No, keto flu.
Okay, so this one cracks me up. So this is what they do with keto. So if keto doesn't work, or you feel like crap, like you're not doing well on the keto diet, well, now they have a name for it. And what's so interesting with this, now I know the answers to it, but I wanted to check to see if other people know the answer. So I went to a couple of like really popular keto sites, and I just randomly put out a question: who knows what keto flu is, right? And I know what it is on a deeper level, but I was trying to see, what do people think?
Population thing?
Well, I heard things like, well, it's your body trying to get used to burning fat instead of carbs. It's all about your electrolyte minerals are in balance. Like all these different things are coming out, but all they did was they made up a name. Like, get this, they made up a name for when you feel like shit and you're doing keto. But really what it is like for most people that have what would be considered keto flu, so they're feeling like they're getting headaches or they're fatigued or body aches and pains, it's because in our culture, let me go deeper. In our world, we're toxic, right?
Correct.
There's even research from, it was done on women in the wilderness area of Alaska.
Yeah.
They recognize that they still have PCBs and chemicals in their breast milk, and they're nowhere near a big city, right? So if you happen to live in this world, you're toxic, right?
Yeah.
Because we all live in the same atmosphere.
Correct.
So now fat, your body loves to store toxins in fat because it doesn't create a lot of challenges for the body.
Correct.
So when people go on a ketogenic diet and they're dumping these huge quantities of fat very quickly, what's being released when the fat's eliminated is all the toxins.
So that's why they need to be drinking a lot of water and working out a lot.
Well,
to increase the breath and urinate more, basically, right?
And even deeper than that, because this is one of the big problems, is that most people, there's actually something that protects your brain from toxins. It's actually called the blood-brain barrier.
Correct.
But when you move toxins from your tissue to your lymph to your blood, it should be exiting your body. It should be coming out in your bowel movements or in your urination or coming off your flaky skin. But once it goes into the blood, if you have poor blood-brain barrier function, what's going to happen is those toxins will move through a poor functioning blood-brain barrier and get into the brain. And just think about it, like
you got brain fog.
All these issues. That's one of the big reasons why I was epileptic when I was younger. Is I had poor blood-brain barrier function. I had a mouthful of mercury amalgams, and mercury moved into my brain and created this big issue, right? And that's what happens to people who think they have keto flu. There's no such thing as keto flu. It means that something is going wrong with what you're doing, but it could be balanced, it could be fixed. Like it doesn't mean that keto doesn't work. It just means that you have to, again, do it right for you.
That's awesome. So deal with the adrenals at the same time. Supporting the adrenals while being on the ketogenic diet is crucial. Also being clear on what your food intolerances are and your food insensitivities and your food allergies.
Right.
It's kind of like these all categories I kind of throw together, that it's key to really understand where you're really at. So Glenn, thank you for being a part of this. Is there anything else you'd like to dive in the day that you just feel you'd want to share with the team before we head out?
Well, I want to tell you, number one, keto works. It works for everybody. If you try keto and it's not working for you, it's not that keto doesn't work, it hasn't been done for you, or you've got these stumbling blocks or these troubleshooting points that you just haven't been able to address for yourself personally. Depke ketosis addresses your individuality. It addresses the stumbling blocks, those basically roadblocks or road bumps that you would run into, and you can achieve the success, whether it be weight or health, or just, how about just general happiness that you can achieve in your life by teaching your body how to burn fat for fuel, but do it appropriately. That's the key.
That's awesome. So folks, thank you for watching Fireside Chats. Hope you're getting a lot out of these. We're trying to create content that really impacts your life. And catch this, like some of the key takeaways is like, get around someone that really knows what they're doing. Don't listen to these people unless they really have years of experience in health. Like if you're out there, try to find, even in your local area, someone that's like a true functional medicine doctor or a true clinical nutritionist to work with, and not just be like, oh, I'm just gonna go to some doctor and have them coach you on health. Most medical doctors know nothing. Most fitness personalities know very little about health and nutrition, especially if they're early 20s and they act like they know everything. If without decades, like to really get down, if you really have real issues and you really want to grow and really understand your body at the highest level, there's all kinds of testing kits that you can get for almost all these different areas of life we're talking about. And you can also test your body in these different levels to see which diet's working for you. So folks, thank you for tuning in. We're going to be having more great content. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, go to TroyHoffman.com, sign up for an email. We'll let you know when shows are coming up, and we're putting out a ton of content. I think we're going to be giving out one of Glenn's books to some of our audience soon on adrenal support here for everybody to help really pour into you so that you can transform your life and you can make better decisions so you can literally live this have-it-all lifestyle. So folks, thank you for watching. Glenn, thank you for being a part and coming down. I appreciate it. Love you, man.
My buddy.
That's
My
awesome,
pleasure,
dude.
buddy. My pleasure.
Thank you, folks, and have a great day, and we'll see you next time.